are, how long does it take a book to replenish, right? So if you think about a situation where somebody is quoting a spread, and if they quote a spread and it's only quoted in the morning, well, just because it's there, that doesn't necessarily refer to a good market, if you will. But if they quote a spread, somebody trades, they quote the spread again, somebody trades again, that's a fantastic market, right? So it's this dynamic interplay of demand and supply of liquidity that essentially notions like resiliency capture, and very, very important to understand. So the sorts of things that we want to know or to want to understand is, if a large order comes in, so large relative to whatever's being quoted on the book, how long before the quotes are refreshed? So you can look at conditional probabilities. So basically, if you see a particular order type, when do you see the next order type? This is why this sort of line of work is important. Some people have also done sort of vector order regression approaches. So let's suppose that I see an order that's large relative to the current market. What does that say about what kind of orders I will see in the future? Okay? And basically, the whole point of these kinds of analysis is just to say, well, we understand that liquidity is a very complex thing. We understand that there's not one market clearing price. But realistically, how effective is the market in allowing traders to consummate trades? Because that's kind of what we're interested in. Okay? On the other side of the market, so we have this sort of the people who are supplying liquidity or supplying quotes. There's also this question about, well, how do people react when they come into a market and they see this liquidity supply schedule? What do they do? Well, do they break up their orders? Are they strategic? Do they get hurt by the fact that there doesn't appear to be infinite depth at the bid and the ask? And so understanding order placement and essentially orders as they come into the market are very, very important, because they essentially tell us how traders are reacting to a particular market environment. And ultimately, in terms of regulation and market design, we have to understand how people are optimizing within the rules of the market to essentially design one that gives the best interaction of supply and demand. So one of the things that's sort of useful about limit order markets is, and this idea of ex-ante liquidity, so liquidity that's posted. If it's in fact the case that with posted liquidity, the people who come into the market react strategically, well, that says that what I see now, right now at this point in time, tells me something about what's going to happen in the future. Right? And when we're talking about financial markets, we always want to know exactly what's going to happen 5 minutes from now or an hour from now, because that's potentially very, very valuable. So with this stock of liquidity supply, which is essentially the limit order book, what can we say about either price volatility in the rest of the day? What can we say about, say, half an hour from now, 3 hours from now? What can we say about what kinds of orders will come in? Okay? So understanding essentially how the state of the limit order book right now affects future sort of, say, price volatility, order volatility, is a very, very useful thing to do, and it essentially helps us sort of understand how market participants will put their orders in over time. Okay? So one way of thinking about this is saying, let's suppose that you have a limit order book, and we have, in our data, we have a limit order book that's somewhat more steep. Okay? It basically has a somewhat different distribution of where the orders are relative to the best quote. Does that have predictable effects on future order flow? Right? Does that tell me something about price volatility? So if I look at an order book at 9:30 in the morning, does that tell me that I'm going to have a problem by, say, 3 o'clock? Okay? And there's some sense in which you would think that this posting of liquidity should give people a flag or a sense of what's going to happen in the future. And this might be something over the course of the day that's very, very useful and important to understand. Okay? Similarly, if you have quote imbalances, so if you have a large amount on, say, the ask and a smaller amount on the bid, what does that exactly tell us about the price path over the course of the day? Okay? It could be that there's some disaggregated information that turns up in the quotes. and basically this will get impounded into other securities in the course of the day. So this is something that we'd also want to understand exactly how it works and understand what kind of inference market participants are making. Thank you. The other thing that would be very, very useful to understand, and I understand there are limitations with the data because it should give you everything, but they don't, is to understand how competition works. Okay? And you'd want to know whether or not people really are competing the way we think that they do. Right? Typically, you give people rights and obligations when they enter into a market, and you expect that if you have more of them, they're going to behave the way we want them to, which is essentially provide the most liquidity at the lowest possible price. And the big question, of course, is, do they? Okay? And so ways of tracking this or thinking about